What's up, everyone? Welcome to this episode of the Xtra Mile Podcast. And for those of you who are watching, you already know that we've got two guests in the studio today, which will make a first for the Xtra Mile Podcast. That's awesome. That's coming up right after this, baby.
The Xtra Mile, Mr. Brightside. Yeah, I know you heard me. Stop this movement that's moving. Well, you gon' have to murder me. Overcome adversity. My whole life, Bobby Jones, Mr. Brightside. And this is the Xtra Mile.
So I know my listeners are tired of me talking about that daggone intro, but I never get tired of it. And of course, for each guest, it's the first time you hear it. Javi's over here bumping his head, nodding his head to it. He put that podcast intro together, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Awesome. So gets the energy right. Guys, welcome to the show. For those of you who are watching and listening, I have Javi. He is here in the studio, Mr. Javier Santana and his wonderful daughter, Meghan Santana. These two are here, guys. They actually represent two different businesses, but they are in one of our Master Networks chapters as active members in that chapter. And what's really cool about that, for a long time there, we had two fathers, two daughters in the same chapter. And I'm hoping and trying to kick my daughter in the butt enough to join us and be a part of that too. So guys, welcome to the show. I want to give you guys both an opportunity to quickly introduce yourself to the listeners, and then we'll kind of go through how you guys both got into what you're doing today.
Awesome. So my name is Meghan Santana, and I own an online clothing company that is retro inspired. So our tagline is, we sell groovy clothes to the modern hippie. And before that, I was a full-time, and still am a full-time photographer. So I've gotten to really use that in this new business as well. And ironically, today is actually the clothing company's 5-year anniversary.
No way. Congratulations. I don't know which one's the applause button anymore, but I have one.
Hopefully it doesn't
somewhere
just
in
boo
here.
at me.
Yeah, I know, right? It's in there somewhere. Here's the dog bark one. It's like an underdog one. That's awesome. And I love your tagline. Always have. I feel like when you say that tagline, you got to give everybody just a minute afterwards, because it's like, it's so clean and so crisp. It's perfect. Javi.
Well, I'm proud father.
Of course.
So I've done many things as as a dad, and failed in many things, but done this. This is right. I take some credit on this one. After that, her business, it's all her. It's all her. My name is Javier Santana. I am owner and managing partner of High Ground Creative. We are basically a marketing communications company located in Delaware. And we offer everything soups to nuts. Our tagline, we were talking about taglines last week. I've been working on getting a really solid one. It's you run your business, we'll handle the marketing.
Okay. I like that. So
we need a little polishing, but a little closer to what our work is. So that's basically what we do. We folks outsource their marketing to us instead of hiring a marketing director.
Yeah, love that. So I'm going to do my very best to obviously talk about the influence both ways. But getting into, let's start with the clothing, of course, like getting into that, what fueled you to make that move and to set that as a goal for you?
I always knew I wanted to sell products because, like I said, before this business, I was doing photography, which is a service. And I just love the idea of being able to stay home and still make the same amount of money. And fashion was always something I was really into. So I mentioned it to him, and I'm thankful that my parents have always been really supportive, because I don't know if I would have taken the leap without like him getting really excited and like ready to go and figure it out with me. Because at the time I was not even 20 yet and figuring it out and living with them. And my parents ended up going to like a New York convention with me for wholesale, and we just kind of figured it out as a family. And then I, of course, took over and just made it my own thing. But it was just one of those things where it's like you don't know you love something until you try it. Yes. So it's not like it was always a passion. It just kind of happened, and I'm really glad I just tried it because I love it so much.
That's so big too, because how many parents are pushing their kids to do something that is going to make you good money, and this is safer and there's less risk, and to have people that are going to encourage your journey into entrepreneurship, that is so big. It's so big.
I had just convinced them that I can drop out of college.
Right.
So I was like, and I'm also going to start this new thing. So they were like, well, as long as your bills are paid, we're here for you. So that was great to always also be very like financially smart and not do anything that would hurt my future self, and they just have always helped me make the right decisions when it comes to finances, and it ended up helping me in the long run not have student loan debt too. For
sure.
this specific.
Correct.
If I wanted to be a teacher or something, I would have gone to college, but for this I didn't need to.
Yeah, for sure. That's so big.
I don't know that, I know that this is a very organic type of conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
I kind of like to stay here in this because I think there's a lot we can offer here, a lot we can talk about. Entrepreneurship, obviously, I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. I'm a late bloomer. I'm 51 years old and started High Ground in 2 years ago. But I've always had that spark that, before they were called side hustles. I was freelancing, doing side work, always had clients and doing that kind of stuff. So it's exciting when the spark was caught by Meghan, and I was so excited about it because I'm like, you have this passion, you have this drive and ambition, which you can't teach. That spark comes from within. We can nudge as a parent, but I saw it. And I'm like, hey, let's work through that. And I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to mention that moment when you talked about not going to school, because I think it's a really cool story. She started going to the local community college here.
Try to keep that close.
Sorry, to local community college, and she took she's like, Dad, I'm gonna major in entrepreneurship. And I'm like, isn't that an oxymoron? You're going to, okay, that's another conversation, but entrepreneurship, that's actually a thing that you go to college for? I thought, okay, well, let's see, and let's get in there and start. And I don't think you lasted 2 weeks in that.
I was failing my business classes, ironically. And he even helped me with one of the exams, and we both failed it together. And I was like, this is not working.
Let me show you practical stuff rather than book stuff.
So I switched it to art. Because I was still adamant on going. So I switched it to art, and getting graded on something you love at creating was humbling, and I really hated it.
Right. Yeah.
I hated a teacher telling me that like my painting sucked. So
but I like it. Like, what do you mean?
I'm like way too like sassy for that. So
that's true.
I didn't.
Now you were remember you took a photography class, and she was already a successful wedding photographer. She knew f-stop and shutter speed.
He wouldn't let us edit.
Right. And then she's texting me from class in photography 101.
Yeah.
And she's like, Dad, they're talking about aperture. I'm like, I said, I remember saying, humble pie, it'll get there. Just go through this. And then the next day we talked about it. And then like that, I don't know if this is going to make any sense for me to do that. So fast forward, she had a part-time job at Chick-fil-A here locally. Yeah. And I'll never forget the day. And she's like, Dad, can I quit my job and finish and drop out of school? I'm like, okay, so let's talk. I didn't jump, okay, talk to me what you're thinking. Well, Dad, I'm looking at my paycheck here, and I can make in one session more than I make there in a week.
Right.
And I have these many sessions for the next 4 or 5 months. And I looked
at her. I like it.
Right, and I looked at her. Right.
And I'm not crying in the bathroom.
Right. And I said to her, well, don't burn any bridges, but you have my blessing.
Yeah.
And then the school part came out, and we talked about that very quickly. And it's like, let's go with it, and we dove into the business.
And luckily, I was on the Seeds program, so it's not like we ended up having to pay back anything.
Right.
So.
And this is so big because first of all, there's tons of people who have tons of passions. Not all of them are something that you can monetize, right? And so like even fashion from a perspective of this is something you're interested in is not always translating to I'm going to sell clothes, you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's it's awesome, especially the way the two complement each other, because you can provide high quality images of your products that you're selling, which is awesome. I know we on this show especially, we've talked about this, but this is an example that was set forth for me, right? There's so many fathers, parents that are willing to go down this journey, yet there are so many more that are not, right? Or so many more that same idea would have discouraged them, and they would have come back to you with, it's not safe, it's too risky, don't do that. Let's just keep with something that's going to provide you a 401k and you can, retire one day. So that is a blessing all on its own. It helped me with my daughter's decisions as she decided to become a tattoo artist. But what's cool here is like what I'm really hearing is like Meghan's an incredible salesperson, and I'm trying to figure out how I can get her selling roofs too, but we'll figure that out later.
I'm not at a point in my life that I'm learning from her.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, you and Doug, we had Doug on the show last time, or a couple weeks ago anyway, for the people that are watching. Doug started his business when he was 42 years old. I don't know if you know that or not. And for me, I'm 36 now, right? And so like all the people that tell me in their mid-30s or their 30s in general that it's too late for them, right? Or, just as many people that say they're too young to start a business or it's too early for them to start a business. We have the inspiration of both right now. We have you who started a business 2 years ago at the age of
50.
You're 50. And you started your business when you were 20, you said?
The first one in high school is 18.
The photography, right?
Yeah. And then right before I turned 20,
Chicka
the second
Co.
one I started.
Yeah. So, there's inspiration. If you're out there listening, you're never too young. You're never too old. And getting around the right people, sometimes you don't have the family that's going to support you, but you also get to choose who's influencing you. That's the cool thing about this thing called life. So make sure if you're not in a family that's as supportive as Meghan's and with that incubation there, get around the people that will help incubate you. Now let's talk about High Ground and how this came to be, because I'm a client. I've bought some stuff from Chicka Co too, so I'm a customer too.
And you've done my logo.
Yeah, but I'm a client of yours, and so I know how passionate you are about what you're doing through my experiences with you. But as you stated, you've gone through some failure, you've gone through a journey to brings you to where you are. I've also, if I'm not mistaken, heard a few title changes that you've had since you've been at the helm of High Ground as well. So that tells me that, there's still a progression to identify roles and responsibilities as you start to delegate out. But tell us about your journey into that and how some of those hardships and failures probably played into your willingness to push forward.
Right. Thank you. I'm going to abbreviate this. It's funny. My girls know this, and my wife is like, I kind of long-winded sometimes, so I promise you. Please tell me.
No.
I always hear Javi land the plane.
He needs to start a blog.
So I'll do this, the shorter version.
A vlog.
A blog.
Yeah.
I've been in this world for many years since I came out of college in early 90s. I was a commercial artist, whatever that means. I was before internet, and I've always been in the art space. But then one thing looking back is every time something happened in technology, I adjusted. My instinct was I still want to do this. What does this look like now? So internet came about in the late 90s, and I was a graphic design. No, it was a commercial artist, and it became graphic designer. I started doing stuff in Photoshop, and kept every time I did a step in the next job, I learned, and it was a building block to the next thing. Now I'm looking back. This is not something that I was calculating. And
sure.
It was adjusting and sometimes surviving and all that. So then I started doing, when websites became very popular, I started designing websites, and then I had a job, but I'm like, hey, I'll pay you this much to do it. Can you do my website? Can you do it? So I had all these side businesses. There was 2 years that I did more as a freelancer in sales and revenue than I did in my job.
Yeah.
And that was like 2004 and 5. And so I kept building a clientele and building a reputation.
By the way, I'm hearing some trends here in the conversations. Go ahead.
Right, so then I take a skill and then I just kind of drive the next one and fail, and then you adjust and you adjust and you adjust. And then the 2007-8 came, and on a personal level, everything hit the wall. I lost everything, meaning my house, my livelihood. As a 40-year-old adult, Meghan remembers this more than my others because she was in there with us. And I had a business that it was me. And I remember having quotes and proposals out for like almost $70,000 on side work. This is not my job. I worked at, and all of a sudden they didn't come back. People were like not buying and I'm like, well, something's shifting, something's happening. And so I went and got a job somewhere, and everything crashed, and I know I could sit here and I'm not going to go into that deep, but we lost everything. I'll never forget the day I had to hand an attorney the keys to my house, the house I thought I was going to watch my daughters graduate from high school and have their prom. And it was my forever home at that time. And so then it became, now the instinct was, what do I need to do to pick up and move forward? So first of all, I got to survive. Right. And so we ended up moving to Florida, where family was there. I literally, if it wasn't for family, we would be homeless. I literally we had 2 10x10 units of storage with our stuff and whatever we could fit in our minivan. That's where we were. Nice. And I took my, so we picked up. And what's interesting is through the time I was looking for work, I remember I had side clients. I still try to hustle and try to get business, but the dream was always to do something where I could have a company more than just me having my side hustle, my side business. And it was on paper for many years. I called it different things: Javi Productions, Santana Creative, Lucky Dog Digital. I had all these different names. And then fast forward, and I'm landing the plane, people. Fast forward, I had a business with two other partners, a construction business, but I was the marketing guy, and that business was, at the end of it, kind of was crashing and burning, and it was acquired by a person who is now my business partner. But I went to work for him for 3 years as his marketing director when that kind of transpired. I was like, thank God I landed somewhere, because I've been through this before. Right. And I helped him with his companies. He has several companies that are together close to $20 million in sales every year, and revenue last year was close to that, and helped him succeed in that space. And then at one point, the spark came, like High Ground Creative, that name came to me, and I designed the logo. And 3 years into it, I approached him and said, I want to start this, but I don't want to do it without you. And he said, what do you need? And we started the business. I was successful in doing this with other companies. And it's like, I can do this and have impact to other small businesses and help them grow. And here we are 2 years later. This month is actually 2-year anniversary of High Ground.
All kinds of anniversary. This is wild. All right. So, first of all, I can extract a ton from this, but one of the things that just stands out to me, right, is like, we talked about this earlier, how a lot of people make the recommendation of safe, don't take the risk. You put yourself in more risk by being employed by somebody who went out of business back when that company folded and you guys got put in the situation that you were in. And I feel like not enough people take that into consideration, right? When they go to work for somebody, they're like, "Oh, this is safe. It's a guaranteed check," until it's not. Mm-hmm. And then it's not on you. You can't do anything about it. So I love the tenacity, right? And just the resilience to, find through. And that, by the way, like, that's what this podcast is all about, is like the adversities that we overcome to get to where we are, and to just not give up, man. Life is going to be hard. We have to pick the hard, right? Is it going to be hard? We're going to work for somebody and be limited, or are we going to, because that's hard too, right? Or are we going to be hard? Is it going to be hard on us because we chose to pave our own path and create something that's going to be our own? Right. And
pick your pain, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
100%. I never want anybody to mitigate my risk. I'll own it whether I fail or not. If my destiny is in that person's hand, that's not where I want it. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know the outcome. I just knew that the best position for me to succeed is if I have control over this.
Yeah. You have the high ground.
Yeah. Now, so let me ask you this. Now that you're building out a team in your company, what once was only the risk of Javier Santana and his paycheck every single week, what does that do for how does that add fuel to your fire every single week, knowing that other people are counting on you now?
I've had a conversation on the side before about this, and I feel the weight of that. Almost as terrifying, but I welcome it, because they have children and they have families, and this business, my company, is contributing to their livelihood. So the decisions I make, good or bad, impact them and their families. I take that so seriously, and I take it to heart, and I feel it. So I welcome it. But yeah, I think about it every minute, every day.
Yeah,
How can I make their lives better? How does this impact them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're so right. And I didn't even remember until you started answering it that we have had this conversation. And because one of the other things that I feel like a lot of people don't consider is this vote for your success that comes from every time a team member joins your company, right? Like, what do you think, that they're not rooting for you? That they don't see the vision, that they're not... Every time somebody comes on board, we as entrepreneurs and business owners, we often think, now I'm responsible for one more person, but we also aren't taking the compliment of what that stands for. This person believes in what we're doing enough to put their eggs in on this too. And so that's pretty cool. Now, Meghan, going back to Javi said something earlier about how he learns from you. What is your maybe like outside the box perspective, and how does that impact Javi when he comes to you and what kind of questions does he bring to you for in business or in anything?
A funny one is just teaching him reels and making him dance on the internet.
By the way, you crush it with your reels. I am nowhere near the consistency. Nowhere near the consistency.
We
That's
just
all her,
we brainstorm a lot together, and I think we I just love the analytics behind trends and things like that, especially because I have to sell something that isn't going to be, not cool in a week. Because I'll have, high schoolers buying my stuff, or, all the way from, we've had an 80-year-old buy our glasses because it reminded her of the one she had when she was in the 70s. So nice. There's no age limit to our stuff, but I have to stay relevant. And that's something I bring to the table with when we brainstorm, just to kind of make sure we stay up to date with what's changing. Recently, Instagram decides I'm not a photo app anymore. And, photographers are really struggling because that's, photos. Right. So they're prioritizing video, and it's something you have to adapt to. And it's been a challenge. So things like that, just staying relevant.
And I'm going to your instincts are incredible. And that's one of the things I forget the daughter hat. She's my daughter on that. I look at her from the perspective of her skills in that sense, and how she can help me and grow and sharpen me. And
for sure, I see it too.
It's amazing because those instincts are so valuable, especially in my business, as I continue to grow, unlearn in what I'm doing. I had to stay relevant, right? Because and the big thing lately has been walking the talk. Yeah, so I have to do the things that we tell others to do in that sense. I'm not a hypocrite in any. In the meantime, I have to balance working on operations, working on sales, putting those hats, as you know, how you have to put a lot of hats on.
Yeah, Master Networks helps me with that, because every single week we're talking about something, and I'm like, damn it, I'm not doing that.
I know.
I'm like, I know I'm supposed to be doing it, but I'm not. And so
it's a mirror. That type of thing. It's like, oh, geez, I need to do that better.
Yeah, but I think you might even subconsciously, Javi, you were talking about it earlier, right? When you're going into the tech world and going from a commercial creator, was that what it said? What it was
commercial
called?
Commercial
artist to graphic designer, right? And you are learning the next technology and the next tech, and learning Photoshop, and that commitment to that, because that's what when you're in that tech space, it's a commitment to lifelong learning, right? There is no exception. Especially, I have friends that get into IT, and they're like, I'm gonna go to school for this. Like, for the rest of your life, you will, because as soon as you finish, it'll all be obsolete, different. Right? And so, but that's the same thing that happens, and exactly what you're talking about with the trends in social media. However, on the the SEO side, or in that aspect, it's an ever-changing world, and so you're on this commitment of lifelong learning just based on the path that you've chosen, which I'm sure probably plays out in other areas of your life, to unlearn and to constantly be pursuing what you don't know.
Right, and I think you're on point, and it's having the humility of something. It's okay to change my mind because I have better data right now to do this.
Like when Chicka Co started, we were not retro at all. We were completely modern, black and white. Like, I was trying to fit into a box, and then about 2 years in, I was like, I hate this. And they can probably tell I don't like what I'm selling. I gotta change and sacrifice some shoppers to do what I love in this field, which is make it more retro. And I lost some people because it's not their thing, but now I have such a strong group of clientele and customers that are just, they love all the weird, colorful stuff, and I'm like happier than ever in it now. But it was an awkward change.
Man, I want to say something on this, and it reminds me of a story, and a lot of people know the story of Blockbuster and Netflix and how they ignored the streaming, whatever. There's another story behind all that that's not as well told, and that is that when Blockbuster was first approached with the idea of streaming and Netflix and what Netflix was doing, it wasn't really streaming that they were considering. It was the membership option that they were considering, where their members would have the ability to rent movies, kind of like Netflix was in the beginning. And one reason why they didn't want to do it, and this is one of the big things that held them back, is they realized that 12% of their revenue was in the late fees of their rentals. 12% of their revenue stopped them and ended up costing them 100% of their revenue later on.
Very short-sighted.
Which is also them not even caring about their customers.
Oh, absolutely. To the nth degree, like the very fact that they were like counting on their late fees.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not just pivot because the customer once knew. No, we're actually preying on the fact that they didn't return their video on time.
That's terrible.
And leaning into that. So I love that. A lot of people aren't willing to do that. We've heard a lot of examples in Master Networks. We've heard examples of some of our companies that are purging the bottom 10% of their clients every single year because they know that they're trying to serve a certain group, and what's in the best interest of that group is to put more of their attention towards them.
Adapting is so important as a small business.
And you're willing.
It's required.
Yeah.
Right.
It's required.
You have to humble yourself.
We talk about this often. There's a lot of times where people are like, it's okay to do this, it's okay to do that. And, we've talked about this a couple weeks ago in Master Networks. It's required to change your mind, because the alternative of you changing your mind in your business is that you've gotten everything right from the beginning to the end. Ain't no way, bro. Ain't no way. Right? So that's awesome.
And paying attention. I mean, being not having blind spots and aligning ourselves with people that know more than we do and that we respect and that we trust. So then they can give us that input, because again, we have blind spots.
For sure.
And so I do that with Megan. I do that with you. When we have these conversations, the people we align ourselves with, because it's so important. I'm a better business person, a businessman, because of that. But they didn't pull me in there. I had to put myself in that place,
right?
And have the humility to know, I'm still learning. I have a lot to offer. Hopefully somebody will listen. But at the same time, especially in technology, things are changing so quickly. They're speeding up even faster and faster and faster. So you and I have to have a conversation offline, and I'm going to set up a time with this, because there's a whole new thing happening in the next 4 to 5 months with Google, with the new algorithms that are.
You got me on Google now.
It's going to turn everything upside down, which we have to rethink a lot of strategy. But the thing is a lot of people are not paying attention to this.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing another paradigm shift happening that I saw in the equivalent of 1998, 1999 with the web. I see one in 2000 in the early with Web 2.0. Now Web 3.0 is happening. That is it's good for the better. But the nice thing, folks like you that have influence in a lot of different areas, not just in one channel, are going to benefit from this. But I don't mean to be cryptic here in this show, but the point of all this is
we'll have them back to answer all these questions later, guys.
You have to pay attention.
Yeah.
And you have to try to stay in front of it. And that's something that I look at Megan for in regards to learning, because I look at the instincts and I see the mindset. And I'm like, okay, I had to think about it. She just does it.
Right.
And I ask, what are you doing? I said, well, and then she has to kind of explain it to me. And then I follow that.
It is so wild, because, you were bringing up that photo situation with Instagram, and you're right. It was created as this photo app, and I didn't really put it together because I'm not a photographer and I wasn't really paying attention to those changes, but it is super interesting. The moment that you bring that up, I'm like, oh, that's why you see all these videos of the behind the scenes, how I created this image, how I edited this.
It's scary. I'm getting we are only getting maybe 10 to 20 likes per photo now, just because of the algorithm. So I'm like, okay, that's going to affect sales.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for you it does, because you're buying your clothing. There's a transaction.
Because Instagram's probably a huge source of our revenue. Because we have a shop. You can shop on Instagram now. So. And
a lot of your message comes up from that.
Yeah, that's how we're
for sure. But you don't ignore the others, which is what I love, right? What I'll make one last comment there is, I've been through this world from the late 90s, and the biggest thing here that I see is all the changes in technology are huge and gigantic, but the commonality is people are people. People have feelings. People are motivated. People don't want to be targeted. They want to be respected with a message. And that's what's great about this, because you have these are tools for us to communicate messages to an audience. If you're in the marketing world and stuff, if you have a hammer, that doesn't make you a carpenter. If you have a brush, that does not make you a painter. That's a tool that with the right skill set and the right intention, you're going to be able to execute what you need to do. But people are the same. I respect people. People have feelings, and people have, and if I respect them organically, they're going to respond to that message because they're not being sold to.
Yeah.
And Meghan instinctively sees that. I need to adjust because these folks this is what they want, and she's paying attention.
Hey guys, the Xtra Mile Podcast is brought to you by Brightside Roofing, and I want to thank everybody over at the Brightside team real quick, because without them, this wouldn't be possible. We started Brightside in 2013. It was my uncle, my cousin, and my brother who started it, and since that time, we have grown to serve over 350 roofing customers per year, and it means a lot to us because when someone chooses Brightside for their new roof, we know that it'll be the last roof that they have to put on that home. And so they could sleep comfortably underneath that roof for a lifetime. Guys, if there's anybody that you know that needs a new roof, you can count on Brightside to be the company that they can trust. Thanks again, and let's get back to the show. Javi, you're such a great example of like when you're hiring somebody, you are not hiring them for the time it takes them to do something. You are hiring them for the time it took them to be able to learn how to do this well, right? And so like when you talk about trends back to 98, 99 in your conversation right now, I'm like, that's the value add, is this perspective of all of that overcoming adversity from that timeline to now is what brings that like all full circle. Right. For not just for you, but for your clients. Like that's something that we can trust and count on. It's crazy.
And thanks for seeing that. We're seeing that, and personally, I could use all those things that happened to me as an excuse not to ... or as a reason and a motivation to do what we got. So you pick your pain. Remember you mentioned that earlier.
So I want to ask you guys both this question because you both have obviously in Javi in your business, this is online internet marketing, getting the word out digitally, right? Meghan, you've leaned heavily into that with social media and utilizing Instagram as your shop account, your primary shop, right?
Yeah, because we've never been a storefront, so
exactly.
Online was my only option to like be found.
Yeah. So having both of you guys in Master Networks in a place where we lean more on relationship building than digital marketing, how important has relationships been to you in your growth in your business?
Extremely. Mentors are so important to have. And like you were saying earlier, just surrounding yourself by good people. I don't think there's a friend I have that doesn't own a business, and that's purposeful. Like I found them through, being an entrepreneur, but it's having those people with the same mindset that's really helped me grow as a person and a business owner. And my first mentor was really like the owner of Belle Boutique, and if she hadn't have helped me a lot, like I don't think we'd be here. She really just was so welcoming in the community, and she didn't see me as competition. She was excited for me to experience what she's experiencing with the boutique world.
Did that surprise you?
Yes, I was terrified to contact her because I didn't want to be, rude or anything. I just was like, would you be willing to, have a coffee maybe? And we've still are friends to this day. And she's now fully online. So we're like really connecting in that way too. So a lot of boutiques are going online now.
Yeah.
But I don't know how people run, businesses without having like just someone to go to that is in the same mindset, to, bounce ideas off of, or someone just to tell you straight up if you're wrong too. That's super important.
Those instincts, I didn't tell her to do that.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say this real quick for the people that are listening. Go to your people that are killing it. Go to the people that are killing it in your space. You will be amazed at how willing they are to talk to you about how they've done what they've done in their business. And it'll surprise the hell out of you. and let that shock wear off quickly, and then ask the right questions and soak up as much of it as you possibly can, and then go to the next one and continue and do and build. And you're going to get the people that aren't aligned. And as soon as you realize they aren't aligned, get the hell away from them. Amen. And stay around that was so well done, Preach Megan. And thank you for taking that step, because there's a lot, especially young entrepreneurs that won't take that step. So that's huge. You're setting a good example.
Yeah, and seeing, folks like Megan and folks like, your daughter, and just folk that we, in our circles that are young, that are taking the world.
You can say Courtney's name. We know who you're talking about.
Courtney Gallagher, and it's just seeing that spark. It gives me hope for the next generation, because unfortunately, the Generation Z and millennials get a bad rap of being lazy. That's not true. The lazy ones get all the attention. There's a lot of driven folks that are, and I love the fact that they have the humility to know, I don't know everything. Let me hang out some old guys and old ladies and or more wise people that have maybe failed a few more times and learn from them too. Because so I have something to offer, and she has something to offer, and the fact that Master Networks allows us to have those multi-generation relationships of wisdom that go up and that go down. And that's, for me, that's the answer to your question, is that's been the most valuable thing. Yeah. And I remember the day I asked you to come to Master Networks, and I said to her, this is not your father talking to you. You, as a business owner, I want you to be around others that are going to make you better and sharpen you. And she didn't take much convincing, but it's a cool group. And, obviously I favor the Friday group because it's my home chapter, and I've missed you guys. I've been out of town the past couple of weeks, so glad to be back this week. There's something that you said that I don't want to skip over too fast. And it is this weird perception that we millennial and on have placed on Gen Z and some of the younger people. And it's this idea that they are lazy. In fact, I don't think they're lazy at all. I think we have some of the best hustlers coming out of this generation, because what's happening is we've got a lot of people who are used to traditional work ethic, right? Which is, I'm going to swing this hammer, or I'm going to go do this, and it's going to be elbow grease. And then we look and we see somebody on their phone or on their computer or on their tablet and think that they can't possibly be working, because electronics back in the day only were for entertainment and they weren't nearly as productive. So when we see people on their phone scrolling while you and I know she's checking out trends and get ready to put a video together, and she needs to know that this music goes with that one. Most people don't. Right. Most people watch somebody who's just flipping through and consuming what's on their phone, not producing and not putting out using it as the tool that it is. Right. At least that's my opinion, by the way. It's like, that's what we're seeing, and that's what they're assuming versus what's actually happening. Right.
And these kids have been so strong with, I couldn't have imagined trying to graduate high school online while COVID was happening. Like, these are some strong kids.
Yeah, my daughter just graduated.
I don't know how they did it.
Yeah. Right. And she got robbed of her her sophomore and junior year. Yeah. But her senior year was as normal as can be. But how normal can your senior year be when you've lost junior and sophomore? It's weird. Right? Like, she didn't know anybody. It was bizarre. Like, she's supposed to be the king of the school, and like nobody even knows who the hell she is. You know what I mean? And so, but you're right. And it's a weird time, but it's super. It's super incredible to see like this group of people that are doing some amazing things with the tools that are provided to us, and using it to connect, right? Because not always are you going to be able to connect with people that are right around the corner from you at like a Bell Boutique. A lot of times, and I'm sure a lot of your mentors now
are just
all over the world,
boutique owners across the country that are just some of my best friends, but I've never met them.
Yeah,
we're just there for each other.
Yeah, just work has evolved, I guess is what I'm trying to say, right? And so, we had a guy a couple years ago won $3 million playing Fortnite. Like, wait, wasn't I told that I was going to waste my life on video games? This guy just made more than his parents and his grandparents, and you know what I mean, off of one game of Fortnite.
My fiance just paid for half of our vacation coming up with trading Pokemon cards. So whatever you got to do.
Exactly.
That's true.
That's a new form of investment that's really big right now.
Huge. And the traditional way of work is not what. So when you see that and you hear that, it's ignorance is really what it is. So anyway.
Yeah, and I've learned from that I have a place as an older, to those folks. In other words, that young generation, the ones that are humble in the sense,
Yes.
I can offer something, and there's value in failures and wisdom. Like, hey, don't step on that line, mind. You're gonna blow up, and they can choose to walk over it or walk in it, and they learn that lesson. But that's why somebody like Meghan succeeds, and maybe some other in her age doesn't, because they want, like, and that doesn't matter your age. If you don't want to put in the work and invest and then adjust if you fall, and if something changes, if the wind changes, regardless of your age, you're not going to succeed. You have to be willing to step into that and get dirty, and she has gone through that. People might see her online and like, wow, look at this overnight success. This young lady
just made a post about that.
She's been hustling and hitting the pavement for the last 5-6 years, and I've seen that happen. So there's a lot of those folks that are doing really well for themselves, and they're not haven't arrived yet, but they're in that journey. And I learn from them every day. And the ones that look at the older guys and the older ladies and the older folks and that have come from a different generation and with respect, and that happens in our community where that flows up and down.
It's so
really big issue I've noticed with like when I was in high school with other entrepreneurs and stuff is this whole bad rap about small towns and like being in Delaware.
Yeah.
So they're so focused on like, I got to get out of here. Success is elsewhere. I just ignore that and made success where I am.
Yeah.
Like I love Delaware.
I love it
and
too.
a lot of businesses, including I think even Elon Musk has a
Tesla's here.
So they do their formations out of Delaware because it's way better for your company.
Right.
So I love small towns, and I don't think I would have been able to make the same amount of connections if I was in a big city.
Yeah.
So that if you're listening and, it's okay to want to leave where you are if this isn't, where you want to be, like location wise, but make the most of it because there's really good people in your small town that are here to help.
I think ultimately, and I think this is your point, is like, if you treat it as an excuse, it'll be one for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So especially what's cool is you guys both have businesses that can serve beyond your geographical location, right? Whereas my main business, obviously Brightside Roofing, is when I can do a roof in California. You know what I mean? Well, maybe I shouldn't say I can't. I'm currently not offering roofs in California.
You need a big traveler.
Right. My target market is closer than that. So anyway, and we've done some crazy roofs and crazy spots, but so my marketing approach was way different than what your guys' would be, but it's interesting how relationships played into all three of our approaches, and the way that we've approached building relationships that will both act as referral partners, but also just people that will be there to insulate our business in general. And I think that's so big. It's so big. Let's do this. One of the questions I ask on every episode of the Xtra Mile podcast is, and I kind of have a backstory with it. I'll briefly go over. For those of you who have heard the suit story, right? When I was put in a really compromising and questionable situation, I borrowed a suit, showed up uninvited, and got a job at a place that kind of changed my life. And it was putting this suit on, this idea of putting this suit on could have been the difference maker. I truly believe that if I wasn't in a suit, I might not have got the interview. Who knows? But anyway, it was my way of going the extra mile. And in what ways have you gone the extra mile in either your life and in your business, and it really came back tenfold for you, either again in your life or in your business? We'll start with Meghan.
I'm going to start with high school real quick. Definitely was the odd, girl in high school because no one was starting a business. So I felt stupid, but I just did it anyway. And, I told my fiance, like, I never really got to, have the normal teenage life. We were moving a lot. So that was something, I had to grow up pretty quick, but instead of being upset about that, I used it to my benefit. So like in 1 year I went to 3 high schools, but I met a lot of people and my social skills really developed. Like I'm not scared of being on a phone call. Like a lot of people in my age don't really like phone calls. So I think more so a way I go an extra mile is using I've just always been taught to use hardships for the better instead of dwelling on them. And that's like a big thing my parents have taught me. Like how did this like crappy situation like give you a new skill? So I think that goes back into the adapting thing. So instead of just like wallowing in self-pity. I'm like, okay, well, this is what's happening and this is how it's going to help me in changing what I need to change, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's so big,
trying
so
to word
huge.
that properly.
No,
Well,
that's
that was
huge.
inspiring
Yeah, that
to
was
hear.
huge.
That was awesome. I mean, you said this to me the other day. We were talking about this, and it's like, it's okay to suck your thumb and be in a fetal position in the corner. It's just how long you're going to stay there.
Right.
So sulking, go ahead.
Yep.
Have your moment.
Have your moment.
I'm going to cry about Instagram not liking my photos.
Yeah.
But then I have to go make 10 reels because I have bills to pay.
Guys,
Gary V talks about this all the time. He's like, it's not fair. Instagram changed its algorithm. It's free.
Exactly. It's a free tool. It's free. I just another quick thing. I think our company for Chicka Co, and I say our, it's just me. I tend to do
I love that. I've actually
that a
commented
lot.
on the show about this once before. I
I
can't
say
remember who
our.
it was with. I think it might have been with Kevin Mitten when we were on that interview. I mentioned the fact that you do that. So anyway,
Well, because I wouldn't be here without my beautiful chicas, so it's our company together.
yeah,
So
and Chico.
and chicas. I think going the extra mile in your business is also just putting your customers first and not being money hungry, and really trying to serve them best, and then the money will come.
yep, so big, so big.
That is very good.
Yeah, Javier,
Gosh, I'm trying to,
narrow it down.
yeah, because my life has been that.
Yeah,
I look back at the journey that I feel I'm starting. I say to a lot of people, I had a midlife crisis at 50, but I wasn't looking for a blonde and a Corvette. I just decided to start a business.
love it, love it.
But moments of Xtra Mile is just the not quitting. In other words, that's never been an option. Even like I always say in relationships, if you every time you have an argument with somebody, you're talking breaking up is an option. There's why even have the darn relationship. Quitting, is not an option. I have a sticker of what it's in the Apollo 13. I got it in the Smithsonian when it says failure is not an option. It's not even in the equation.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what do I do next?
Yeah.
Because that's not what I planned, but now this is the cards that are in front of me, and that's happened right now with my business, with my personnel, my team, and how we're adjusting because things that get thrown at us. And I don't even sit there and sulk anymore. I just like look at it and it's like, okay, take a deep breath. What do we need to do to adjust? And let's adjust. The winds are going to change. If you're in a journey and you're going a direction, the winds are going to change. If you're rigid and not able to adjust, you are going to sink. Yeah. And that's the long-winded answer. I warned you, but the Xtra Mile has been from the beginning okay, this changed. Let me adjust. Let me adjust. And I look back in history, and that's the pattern. The pattern is I did not give up. And my why is this young lady, my other two daughters, and my wife, providing protection and safety and being able to feed them. That I'm no good to anybody if I'm sitting there in the corner.
You're my hero in that way, dude. Every time you talk about that, and we've had some close conversations, and it's admirable for sure. The things you just said, man, it's so funny when I look back on the conversation with Doug just this past episode. Same. And what's so interesting is I never was that way. I always had a plan B. I always had a plan C. And it was so interesting how when this has come up lately, I'm like, I need to stop thinking. It might surprise people because I do go forth with so much momentum and energy, but I'm always thinking about what if. And I think perhaps, it's got something to do with the way that, I came to the situation I was in, but I've always thought about if this doesn't work, I'm going to do that. And I've already thought about two other options. I'll have it fired up quickly. If this doesn't work, I'll do that. And the whole concept of burning your boats and staying focused on the mission is really, I think, the much more advisable approach.
Sometimes life burns it for you, and sometimes you have to create that scenario, but it's still the same outcome. You have to be able to let it, keep moving.
Yeah. It's so interesting because even in my plan B, plan C options, I'm still thinking failure's not an option because I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go. I'm going to keep going, but I'm going to keep going over here. Right. It's so weird because that whole, there's nowhere to hide, right? Like life is going to come.
Right.
And
it's going to come find us.
Paths are oversaturated, like what we all do. But the whole point is standing out in that
exactly
field.
Yeah.
Like there's a million people who do what we all
Right.
do. We're not like special and like I'm the only person who sells clothes.
Yeah.
Like
We had-
Target is selling crochet.
we had Chaz Wilson on the show a month or so ago, and this is one thing he talked about. He's like, everybody's always talking about how saturated their market is, and like, yet you can go into any town in any area and be amazed at the opportunities that you'll see, because there's still so much abundance for us all. But Gary Vee has another line. He's like, he said, the people aren't coming and taking your customers and selling your jobs, and that's not the reason why you're losing. The fear that is happening is the reason that you're losing.
Right.
It's the concept and only the concept.
With the saturated market too, I forget who, someone told me this, it changed my life. They were like, because I felt when I went into the clothing company thing that it's oversaturated, and like should I even do it? And they were like, well, you don't, if you were to buy a red car and then you're just suddenly going to start seeing red cars. So like they were like, have you ever seen your car that you have on the road? And I'm like, yeah, all the time. But it's because I own that car. It's because it's my mindset. Like I see my car everywhere. So it's just literally a mindset thing. Like, of course you're going to notice people in your field because it's on your mind.
But you didn't sell
But
your
you
car
didn't
just
know
because you
before.
saw another one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So many of my friends do what I do, and we just, community over competition. So
I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Creation over competition. I love that.
Yeah, and again, the example of having mentors so close in the same area that are serving the same customer is an example of that. Let's go to a place where because we've got a lot of people listening. We've got people listening from the position of they are an entrepreneur and in their business. We've got people listening that are thinking about starting a business and have not even taken the push because maybe they don't have the family around them that's going to support them. What would you say to those people? And if you want, you can look at the camera. I don't know which one he's got. The red light is the indicator. The red light is the indicator. So.
Same as we said before, with all these free tools. I mean, Instagram, I've met some of my best friends. So I think just being personal on social media and like I share my hardships with my customers. So just being open to receiving those new friendships and stuff, you're going to know, like you'll feel it in your gut if someone's worth your time or not. Just be trusting your gut when picking friends. I think that friendships are so important with like, even if you don't have a business. So I would say if you can't find anyone locally, I'm here. You can just talk to me. I'll be your best friend. But social media is just like an amazing way. There's also Facebook groups for like, I'm in a boutique owner Facebook group. And so there's just so many options of finding those people if you can't find them locally.
Yeah. And sometimes you're not going to have the money to leave and be around the right people, connect with them digitally, because that is the best way. Honestly, you're probably going to have a better connection with them anyway. Even if you lived in the same neighborhood with some of them, you're going to have a better connection with them this way. It's good advice.
Yeah, thank you. I think connection is important. I think the advice I would give is, this day and age, there's less excuses to become successful or have a business than ever, because there's a lot of tools. That's the technology is a great equalizer when it comes to the tools. But like I said before, the tools don't make the tool is the conduit for the outcome.
Yes.
You can't teach drive. You can't teach ambition. And that spark has to come from within. So if you're lacking that, then put yourself around people that are going to ignite that and help you be better. And those people you said earlier that bring you down, sometimes, I don't have that issue with my family. I'm very close to my family, but some families in some cases are at kryptonite. They suck your life force. You have to be able to identify that, so then you're able to be in a better position to do better. So the relationships, find them, because they are out there. There's people that are looking for you as you're looking for them. But you have to take that step.
They aren't just going to show up.
They're not going to show up.
You definitely have to make the effort.
Yeah. It's so much in what you guys just said that just stands out to me. There's something you said earlier, actually, that I want to go back to for just a second because I wanted to comment on it, but I commented on something else instead and didn't come back to it. But you said something about the humility that is practiced between generations. And I think it's super important for a lot of seasoned business owners to be gaining perspective from the younger entrepreneurs and people that are looking at the different ways to market your products and services and things like that. The other thing is when I say we, I'm no longer the young people, unfortunately, damn it. The younger people also have to have the humility to listen to the older generations because there's a lot of proven business strategies that are not going anywhere unless you ignore them and miss them completely, right? And what's also really cool is you will see that, and we see it playing out for us, there will be marketing trends that will come all the way back around. If you don't think that direct mail is going to be effective again, or you don't think that billboards are going to be effective again or more effective in another time than they are right now, you are sadly mistaken. There are going to be trends and you're going to see things that are more traditional come back to a very, very effective marketing approach. So when we close our eyes to either perspective, we're hurting ourselves.
Like one thing that has never, ever changed is business cards. Like it's just the only thing I adapted is getting a QR code on mine because humans are lazy. And so they're able to just scan it.
They came back. They were like not cool forever.
I love a business card.
QR codes and stuff, but you're right. You said earlier digital. We do consider traditional, grassroots stuff. Look, I just delivered you some door hangers, right?
100% just dropped off door hangers over at Brightside.
But no, you're right. It has to be. You have to consider that, and the pendulum does swing back, and being aware of that and and paying attention is so important because you'll miss it. And So, but
I use email lists a lot.
Right.
I use Text Club and email list because some people prefer one over the other. I like email. Personally, if I get a coupon from a company, I get it in my email, not text. So I like making sure I'm adapting to all different types of customers and what they prefer and what they're going to see. Right. Because if Instagram decided to delete itself tomorrow, I don't want to be relying on them. Like if I have my email list, like I'm good.
Yeah, it's so big.
Email won't die.
So big. Guys, there's so much to unpack here. In Javi's last comment and Megan's last comment, your desire to what you want should be stronger than any of the words that can fall into your ears from others. If you want something bad enough, you have to put it on your shoulders, right? Javi just mentioned all these tools, these resources, getting around the right people. You have to put the work in. Just like when you fail, hiding in the fetal position will only last for so long because real life will come after you. There is no way to sit there and expect that somebody is going to come and save you and make your business succeed. It is on you. Now, I'm not saying that you don't get around the right people and you feel like you're going to have the insulation of that team around you and those people around you. By all means, do that. But also, you have to lean on your own desire. A lot of people want what we're doing. They just don't want it bad enough to do the things that we're doing to accomplish what we're accomplishing.
Can I say one thing?
Of course.
Don't be afraid to bleed, get dirty, or sweat. If you are, you don't have any business doing this.
Dang. Go through the battle. All right, guys. Before we close, I want to make sure everybody can connect with you on social. So please get your socials plugged in here, and also make sure that Quantre gets the spelling so that we can put it up on the screen as well.
So you can find me on all socials. My personal favorites are Instagram and Pinterest. You can find me under either Chicka Co or Chicka Artistica. So I personally spelled Chicka incorrectly on purpose. We're Puerto Rican and it's CHICA, but I added a K because it looked better. So it's Chick with an A and then
Chicka
Co.
Yeah. We'll put it up on the screen for those that are watching.
Which proves you can do whatever you want. Like.
For real.
Right. I spelled it wrong on purpose.
High Ground Creative. Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, we're pretty heavy in there. If you go to Facebook is /Get the High Ground @Get the High Ground, and then you can just type in High Ground Creative in Instagram and you'll see.
And if you're a business and not on Pinterest, you need to hop on that because it's really growing.
Hell
And
yeah.
you can make a lot of money on Pinterest too.
So Megan took over my Instagram account, and hi Grant, I'm going to give her the Pinterest as well.
Yes.
Thank you for volunteering for that.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you guys for being on the
Thank you for
show.
having
This
us.
was incredible. I have to have you guys both back individually next time so we could just go a little deeper into some of your guys' your individual journeys, because I'd love to tell that story a little bit more as well to our viewers, and we want the answers on all that's coming on Google
Yeah, we can have a
coming
conversation
soon
soon.
as well. And so we also want to make sure that you guys follow both Javi and Megan so that you can continue on the journey with them and watch them win and root for them on their way. Guys, you can find me right here again next week. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you for tuning in to the Xtra Mile Podcast. If you're still listening, that means you learned something or you would have turned this off. So make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode of the Xtra Mile